Super excited for the weekend, no doubt about it. Looks like we're going to have some decent weather. Part of being a baseball coach is you're part weatherman, so constantly checking the weather. Looks like we're going to be okay to get the games in. Excited to have McNeese here. Outstanding program. I've known for a really long time. I actually interviewed to be the head coach there twice. And so we know what that challenge is going to present, but just ready to get the season started and get into the rhythm of a season. That's the thing I'm most looking forward to.
Coach, with you naming Ryan Prager your opening day starter, what went into that, and what did Ryan show to you during the fall and then the spring that he deserved to be that guy?
Yeah, he didn't throw in the fall until the very end. We wanted to take extra time with him, wanted to get fully into like that 16-month, I think, post Tommy John period, to where we asked him to get ready to go. And we didn't really want to ramp him up and then shut him down over the winter break. And then so we just kind of wanted to have a slow build and then just keep going. And so that's what he did. He threw maybe once off the game mound before he went home for Christmas. And then he came back, and he's been really solid. So I'm sure he'll have his rough days as well, but he's been throwing a ton of strikes. We all know how talented he is. He's gotten a lot better. Coach Max has changed some of his pitches, give him a little bit more effectiveness. And I think the biggest thing about Ryan is, I feel the same way about Lampkin and Sadeo too, but the guy you trust, man. That's a lot of emotion to go out there in the first game of the season, and you got 12th man out there. I'm sure we'll have a big crowd. Just handling the emotions of that and giving us a good opportunity to get off to a good start. I'm not talking about a win or a loss. I'm just saying just get through the first inning. Because shoot, my heart will be racing. So he throws strikes. He's got multiple pitches he can throw for strikes and handles the run game, and he's mature.
And then with it being somewhat of a unique starting rotation, at least for the first week, with all being left-handed pitchers, what are the pros and cons that come along with that? And then in your coaching career, have you ever had an all left-handed rotation, or do you try to mix it up?
Yeah, shoot, I've been a part of a team that gone to the College World Series, led the nation in wins with an all left-handed rotation. So, like I said earlier, something about the rotation of the earth with lefties. If they throw strikes, they get outs most of the time. But I think more than that goes into it. It's just where the best fit is. We have a lot of really good young pitchers that I would love to be able to kind of pick and choose the time we get them opportunities to pitch so they can get through the emotions of that. But at the end of the day, the cream's going to rise, and the guys that pitch the best will pitch the most. So Sadeo has taken a nice jump. He's a strike thrower. He started some games for us last year, started the Texas game, I think, here last year. Pitching a lot of big moments out of the bullpen. Tanner Jones isn't quite ready yet, but hopefully after today we'll get some good news on that. Maybe get him up next weekend if he gets through the next week. But yeah, just the three lefties are guys that are going to throw strikes and get us off to a good start in each game.
Schloss, wanted to ask you about Braden Montgomery and just the pitching role you kind of envision for him this season, and how you kind of balance between using him for that and everything else.
Well, the thing in terms of balancing him, the guys who are really good at that, they've been doing this their whole life, right? So you trust them. I don't need to see Braden Montgomery throw from right field. We know he's got a good arm. We know that's a weapon in the outfield when he's playing. The thing with Braden is he's so smart and mature that you can trust him, which is the favorite kind of player to coach. You can trust, hey man, how do you feel today? Like, this is your decision. Do you want to do X or do you want to do Y? And you let him make that call. In terms of his role, he's pitched pretty well the last 2 times out, so I would say that he's climbing up that ladder. But at the same time, again, the guys that pitch the best, pitch the most. And so when he gets his opportunities, he needs to do well with them. And if he does, then we'll build on that. But he's very talented. He really views himself as a legitimate pitcher. And he certainly ended our season last year, which I remind him a lot of. He was part of ending our season, both with the bat and his arm last year. So, I've seen it up close and personal, and I think he's better now. His breaking ball's better. He has some other serviceable pitches outside of his fastball. So we'll see, but we'll look to get him in there when we can.
And I know a big focus of his this offseason was kind of his right-handed swing.
Yeah.
Just what kind of improvements did you see him make there?
Yeah, it's a great question. That was a part of the recruiting process. We have a bunch of lefties on our team. And so we were able to get him a lot of at-bats. We would stack the lineup against his team in inter-squad games so he could see a lot of lefties. It's really good for our left-handed hitters to see a lot of lefties because there's a lot of matchups played at this level. So, to this point, I can't tell you the difference between the two. He's had great moments on both sides of the plate. So the season will tell us how improved he is.
Obviously just the opening weekend, so what are your expectations for some of the young guys and also the transfers?
Well, I think the young players, the saying is, the game doesn't know how old you are. The game is the game. But, whether you're old or whether you're older, none of these guys are old. I'm old. But these guys they're all young. But experience versus not experience. So I think the transfers, they'll have a little bit slower heart rate, but they've never played here. They've never played in front of this kind of crowd. I'm hoping that we'll have Friday night and this weekend, and certainly in the SEC. But the younger players are certainly talented, and so we practice their routines. We practice them learning mental skills or things that can be trained, and we spend a lot of time, effort, and money in that. And we practice it. I play crowd noise throughout our inter-squad games. And we have those fall games that we have good crowds at. So they've been in that moment a little bit. But the only way to get better at it is to play. So guys like Grahovic and Jet Johnson and Caden Sorrell, Jack Bell, a few others, those guys, they're super talented players, and we're going to look to get them out there because we need to see them. And they're good. And they're going to push the other guys. And the older players, they need to play well. And I don't care how old you are. I mean, the guys that play the best play the most. You're certainly going to defer a little bit to track record at the beginning of the season and maybe give not an older player, but a player who's shown it to you, whether it be an inter-squad or whether it be at another school or here. You're going to give them the benefit of the doubt for a while. Certain guys have a little bit more rope than the others, but at the end, we have a lot of good players, and the season will tell us who the best players are.
Yeah, you said some of the guys haven't played here before. Just what have you told them about the 12th man and what the environment's going to be like?
Well, again, we did get that fall game in, and so we had a good crowd that night against, I think it was Houston Christian. We played at the University of Houston, a road game. That was good against a good team. U of H has a good team, and they had a good crowd that night, the night before they played Texas in football. So I think they experienced it. They see it on TV, but you never really know till you play. So, that's why we just got to start the season so we can get through that stuff and they can really focus on just the baseball side of things.
You talked about earlier not having this lineup live and die by the long ball. So how important is it in this first weekend to see them be able to maybe have a couple opportunities for situational hitting and just different ways to win?
Yeah, great question. So we talk about winning baseball all the time. What is winning baseball? We call it ATW, awareness to win. What is the game asking me to do right now? Is it to run at third base and the infield's back? Is it to make sure the ball gets put in play to score a run? Is it to throw the ball, to the cutoff man, or to throw the ball to a certain base? Or it's always asking you to throw strikes. But yeah, I want to be an offense. I want to be a team that can win in any way. I don't want the environment to dictate what kind of baseball we play. So Saturday, for instance, is supposed to be like a 20-mile-an-hour north wind. Well, if we can only hit home runs, that's going to be a tough way to score. So you better be able to stay on baseballs, run a little bit. Everybody knows I'm not the biggest fan of the bunt game unless it's used as an offensive weapon, which we have some guys who can use it as a weapon. But home, I want to be a good hitting team with big, strong guys. And then when the hitter makes a bad pitch, the result of the swing, the ball may carry out of the ballpark. I've coached against and called pitches as a pitching coach against teams that live and die by the homer, and it scares you to death. Like every single pitch scares you to death. But at the end of the day, if you execute good pitches and they don't put pressure on you in other ways, whether it be running bases or playing situational winning baseball, then more often than not, you can get them.
Anything in particular for this first weekend you're hoping to, I guess, get a clearer picture of in terms of how the pieces of the puzzle fit together for this team and moving forward?
It's always interesting to see how guys react to the real games, right? Because you have plenty of players that are awesome in practice and not so much, at least in that first couple games. Or you have the opposite, guys that, yeah, they're okay, but boy, when the lights come on, man, what a different guy. And so there's always surprises on each end, and you just don't know what they're going to be until you play. You know, I'd love to be able to get, I mean, the fact that our starting pitchers will probably only go about 70, 75 pitches, if they can even do that, that's going to allow a lot of opportunities for guys to pitch. And so it'll, you know, look forward to hopefully getting some of those new players out there and get some experience under their belt.
Does it feel, I know at last year when you at times inevitably a guy or two hit a hitting slump, there wasn't really that guy you could call upon on the bench. Does it feel like this is a deeper batting lineup, that you have some guys that can step in and platoon or fill in some spots?
Yeah, there is. You know, the question is going to be, there's no doubt there's talented players on this team. This is the floor of the talent of our program has been raised, no doubt. Credit Nolan Kane and all the other coaches for that. The challenge is going to be for the coach, like, when do you make those decisions? Who do you ride out? Who do you don't? Who do you give the opportunity to play out through some slumps, and who do you don't? And then it's going to be, is the guy who comes in, is he ready? Where's his mindset? If he's been over there pouting, oh, woe is me, I'm not getting to play, then he's probably going to stink when the game comes on. If he's been over there and he's like rooting for his teammates, and he's a great teammate, and he's selfless, and he's been paying attention, and he's been getting his work in away from the field, then chance favors the prepared. Like, he'll be ready, he'll do great. And then the guy that comes out, what kind of teammate is he when he's not playing? Okay, yeah, I went 2 for my last 15. He deserves to play. I'm going to root on my teammate until my time comes back. So, frankly, any good team, that's the challenge. And especially in today's college athletics, when we all know what's out there, you can always move around, right? You can always go transfer. So sometimes the transfer is a good thing, but a lot of the times it's an excuse for, you know, I just need to keep plugging, keep going through that process, keep getting better, and then I'll eventually get what I want at the end of the rainbow.
Do you have an idea of what the back end of the bullpen is going to look like so far? Or is that still kind of up in the air?
I'd say it's still up in the air. It's relative to who's available, and obviously if we have to get a couple of outs and towards the end of the game and Oschenbeck hasn't pitched, I mean, I trust him beyond anybody. But beyond that, I think Brock Peary, a kid from Arizona State, shows a unique view, depending on the hitter, depending on the matchup. But to say that we have this defined closer, no, we don't have that guy yet. But there's some guys that, you know, what Max has done, Coach Weiner has done, is he's really given each pitcher some weapons. Even if it's just one thing, all right, then it's our job to try and match him up, put him in a good scenario where if he's a breaking ball guy, okay, this is a really good matchup to get this out, or maybe 2 of the next 3 outs, or whatever that is. And so we'll go into it that way. And the best teams I've ever coached have that closer, you know. And Travis, you know you know most of those players from where you're from, but hopefully we'll have that guy. If not, we'll find other ways to do it.
In the same sense, when you're talking about the guys cheering on their guys on the bench, maybe when their number isn't called, how much did you see that with Prager over the last year, then now getting his chance to do that?
Yeah, he's an elite learner. He would sit right next to Coach Yeski last year, paying attention to what's going on, trying to figure out why are we doing this, why are we doing that. I think Jacob Palish was an awesome mentor for him over the course of time. So for a guy who's his 3rd year in college, but he's only ever pitched 1 season, he's as prepared as you can possibly be.
Any more questions, Coach? Thanks,
Thanks, guys.